Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. Happy Skews Day to you. It's August 13th, 2024. I'm Trey. That's Mark. How's it going, Mark?
Good, man. Got a fun show for you. We're talking about fun new ways to rig elections involving artificial intelligence, and
Yeah.
also a couple new secret societies just dropped. So we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Yeah, I know
fun.
you call it fun. Could also be, a little mortifying at times. But yeah, I was gonna say up top, just need you to know as we get further into this later, I'm gonna be leaning on you for support, so I don't completely lose my mind, which is maybe not the best strategy on my part to, to rely on you to
Well,
make me feel
America
better. But yeah.
conservatives, and not just in America, UK has them too. They love secret societies, and it's like
Mhm.
it's so fucking funny to me that they just like have to have secret handshakes and shit. It's like you're the richest people in the world. You can just do stuff. You don't have to like meet in like the stonecutters lair from The Simpsons or
Mhm.
whatever. It's so fucking funny. Oh, before we hopped on, I saw like, did you see that like a couple of the betting sites are going to have odds on the Little League World Series? I feel like we've strayed so far from God's light. It's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is anybody?
Yeah, the
Oh my
betting
god.
thing and like I like betting on sports. I don't go crazy with it at all, but I do like doing it. But I can admit especially the whole like the leagues themselves all getting in bed with the betting
Hmm.
corporations and having them as sponsors and stuff like that is just like just begging for trouble, man. It's already getting ridiculous, like you're saying, but
Yeah.
it's gonna balloon into an even bigger thing eventually. I think it's not good.
Yeah, and it's been happening. I know sports betting is one of those things you and I disagree. I mean, like I don't necessarily think it should be illegal, but I think people should understand that it's bad, and it's probably better for society when you had to go to a dirty bookie in the back of a bar. Go to
Yeah.
a little, yeah, but like the like I don't know if you've seen that it's been out legal enough. There've been studies where like when it's introduced in a state, like statewide credit ratings go down and bankruptcies go up. But also is the part where DraftKings and FanDuel are both losing. How is everybody losing money involved in sports gambling?
I didn't know that second part. I don't, that's one of those things I don't understand how that could be true. How could they possibly be losing money? It's like Trump bankrupting a casino or whatever. It's supposed to be real hard to do.
I imagine somewhere there's somebody like leaving with a truck, like a bunch of cash in the bed of a truck. But like it's fucking weird. Anyway, somebody will figure it out. So before we get to the show, I want to talk about this. News Channel 5's Phil Williams is our favorite guy is out
Our
there fucking shit
hero
up.
here,
The
yes.
the world's most milk toast white man just existing in Middle Tennessee as a TV news reporter, fucking up assholes'
Yeah.
lives.
Being
And
gangster as hell, dude. With his librarian chic or whatever he's got. He don't give a fuck, man. He
yeah,
goes after him.
so he's been hounding the small police department outside of Nashville because like this one like chief detective was like heavy into QAnon shit. This is a small town called Millersville, a population of 6,000 people, and they're essentially using their entire police budget on dumbass QAnon bullshit. And it turns out the chief's in on it too, and he's supported by the city council. And like because of his reports, they lost access to FinCEN, which is like the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. Like, what the fuck are you clowns doing? You can't be using like Treasury Department secret data to like hound people based upon conspiracy theories. And they're like got mad at Phil Williams over it. Um, and the police chief's going on QAnon podcast complaining about Phil, and he's this is just like the funny part of this, like they think they're going to take down Bill Clinton, which is like the
Right.
Millersville Police Department, is just fucking hilarious. But they also got a hold of banking records for Marshall Blackburn's. They think Marshall Blackburn's in on like child sex trafficking.
And dude,
And,
I guarantee, I don't actually don't even know where Millersville is. I don't think. I don't think I'm even aware of it. But I guarantee you, there's plenty of shit in that town that they could be spending their time on as the police force of that town that's
uh,
just going unnoticed because they think they're going to bring, the entire global cabal of elites to its knees or whatever
yeah,
from the HQ of the Millersville PD. It's
uh,
ridiculous.
yeah. Like I'll come back to that in a second. But like, so like the police chief went on there. He agreed with the host that Pizzagate was real. And it's like I don't know if this guy knows that comic ping pong is outside of his jurisdiction. But yeah, you're right. The stuff they're supposed to be doing, like when you think about like a small town cop is supposed to be doing instead of going up against the deep state, it's like you're getting like a fender bender in a Kroger parking lot, and you call the
Hmm.
cops because you need a report for insurance. And they're like, no, sorry, we're busy. We can't get to that right now, ma'am, because we discovered that going through Marshall Blackburn's campaign donations that her biggest donor is if we rearrange the letters in all their names, you can pick out letters to spell Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. Yeah.
It's like you're like, oh, sorry, man, we can't get your call right now because we're going through the Clinton kill list, and it's like, but my cat's stuck in a tree, motherfucker. What are you guys doing over there? It's so fucking dumb. It kind of feels like this shit's just out there happening all around us, and every sane person is just trying to hold on the rope until this fever breaks, and all these like lead poisoned boomers like figure out how to use the internet or die off or something.
Right.
It's very fucking weird, man.
We all know that these guys, a lot of them are like drunk on what little power they have and they abuse the shit out of it. And that's a general problem with American policing. And it's bad, especially when they're racist. And so they see a black guy and that means he's a criminal automatically. But now they're adding other elements to that where it's like, if they see somebody in like a Kamala shirt or something like that, that means that person's a pedophile or any kind of or you got dyed hair, just any kind of, remotely queer or coastal coded thing. Like, that means in their mind you're literally trafficking children, which gives them justification to shoot you or whatever they end up doing, and that's it's real scary.
My understanding is like the main thing they do is like write speeding tickets on the interstate going into Nashville. So like maybe they're being obsessed with this shit on the internet is like actually making lives better for the citizens of the town or people that drive through it. But it's just like it's fucking weird. Actually, like Phil went and asked the police chief's name Morris about like why is he spending police resources on shit that doesn't matter to anybody in his town. And he's like, the only thing I can think of is you're a pedophile or you are covering for somebody that is. Right. That's the reason I can come up with for why you're asking these questions. Yeah. It's like, okay, so leave Phil alone, buddy. He's our hero. So yeah.
I don't think he wants no smoke from Phil, dog. He's a junkyard dog, buddy.
Yeah.
He is. All right. Well, let's get into it. Producer Matt is with us. This is Weekly Skews. Before we continue, I want to remind you of a few things. Number one, if you want to see me do stand-up comedy live and in person, and of course you should want to do that, go to TreyCrowder.com. Check out my upcoming dates. I just got back from a big weekend in Dallas, Texas, Mark's old stomping grounds. Yeah. It was very kind to me. I appreciate all y'all who came out to that. Next up, we got Des Moines, Kansas City, Omaha, San Antonio, and a whole bunch more coming the rest of this year and into 2025. So go to TreyCrowder.com and check those out. Also, there's a link to me and Corey's book on there, Around Here and Over Yonder. Comedic travel guide. It's a lot of fun. We read the audiobook if you're into that. And finally, if you want to support this program and get some more of it, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. Go to weeklyskews.com/more or just go to Patreon and look for my name. You find it $5 a month. Full-length bonus episodes, 2 of them per month. We got one coming up later this week. We cover things that, we don't get to in the main show or stuff that happens in between or just whatever, but it's a lot of fun. If you like this show, you'll like that one because it's this show, but more of it. So check it out. Sign up on Patreon. All right. As for this show tonight, you all may have noticed while the Harris campaign continues to gain momentum, is out there just burning up the trail. The Trump campaign seems to be more focused on not doing much of shit other than having weird, meandering, rambling, poor sound having conversations with Elon Musk on Twitter after a 45-minute delay and things of that nature. You might think that's an odd approach, but it seems that it may be connected to the fact that they might have some other plans for how to take care of it all, irregardless of all that. And I know that's not a word, but hey, what are you going to do? We'll explain it all later. It is scary, but Mark is here, everyone. It's okay. It's going to be okay. First, we begin, though, tonight, as always, with the Daily Dumbass, Matt Graphic. Tonight's DD, Ukraine, for not understanding that they could devastate Vladimir Putin with a well-timed talk to the hand.
And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way.
Simple as, isn't it? So, Mark, a lot of people point out, like, he does sound weird right there, right? Like, just to get it out, like Trump's voice. Because I saw some people saying it might be audio compression issues, but it sounds like he just didn't have his dentures in because he wasn't on camera or something. But he's got like a Sylvester the Cat thing going on, which is kind of adds to the ridiculousness of the whole situation.
There were definitely parts of it where we sound like he taught putty tat. But the to me it sounded like he just got new veneers or dental work or something. Like if you want to be conspiracy, some people were like, oh, it's because his lifelong cocaine addiction. He has a hole in the roof of his mouth. I'm like, I don't know about that. But so Yeah, like you said, it started 40-some minutes late because it can get the tech to work. Elon said it was a DDoS attack, which is funny because it didn't affect any other part of Twitter, and people inside Twitter are like, no, he's just lying. Just the tech crashed because we fired everybody. Um, and yeah, you're right. He sounded funny to a lot of people. And Huffington Post reporter named SV Date asked the Trump team about it, and they said, "quote Must be your shitty hearing. Get your ears checked out." I'm like, well,
Yeah, that's like the formal response from the Trump
yeah,
campaign. Must be
yeah,
your shitty hearing. Get your ears checked. It's like, oh man, paragons of
yeah.
professionalism over there. But I actually tuned in briefly as much as and from what I understand, it was largely like this the whole time. And it's like Trump just kind of rambling on and on and on incessantly about the same things that he always talks about, punctuated every now and then by Elon going like, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Elon brought very little to the table. Not that anybody should be surprised by that, but it was not riveting conversation or a particularly compelling example of how to interview someone on a stage like this. Is what I'm saying. Pretty low rent, in my opinion.
I'm wondering, like, because there's so many things are broken right now, but like Tesla's ostensibly a public company, and you've got they're an electric car company whose essential mission statement from the beginning was like, we're here to fight global warming, climate change, right? And you have the global face of climate change denialism,
right,
on your other company publicly denying climate change, talking about how it's going to raise, the sea is going to raise like 1/8 of an inch over 100 years, and just means more beachfront. He did that bit about more beachfront property again, which is weird. He complained about illegal immigration when Elon very famously overstayed his student visa and was an undocumented immigrant for a long time. Trump also said he was fleeing to Venezuela if Kamala won.
Yeah, he said that last time too, though, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if he specified the country, but he said in 2020 that if he lost, he would leave the country and never be heard from again, which is the most upsetting of all the promises he's broken, in my opinion. But yeah, I saw people point out that this time around, when he says that he's going to leave the country if he loses, it's a little bit different because of the context of him being a convicted felon.
Right.
So he's like a flight risk or whatever, which does make it funnier.
He's supposed to be sentenced for his New York case in a couple weeks, and they should, like, if he was a normal person saying he was thinking about fleeing the country, that would he'd be, have his bond revoked.
Yes.
So, but why do you think Venezuela? Like, as somebody who follows the intricacies of his brain, like I do, I think I know, but like, why do you think?
Oh, I mean, I just assumed that it's like a non-extradition country or something like that.
No. So Venezuela's been, a conservative boogeyman for off and on for 80 some years, right? Because of the threat of communism.
Yeah.
So in his stump speech, he's been doing this bit for a while about how even Venezuela, which sucks, has less crime than America does now under Biden, right? Which is nothing. None of this is based on anything real, but but he's been saying it long enough that it's evolved in his head to think Venezuela is objectively awesome, and now he just wants to move there because it's cool. He also praised Elon for firing striking workers, which is already causing legal headaches for him. But we'll talk about that on Friday on the bonus episode later this week, I think. Because we're going to talk about right wing populism. So yeah, I mean, like, this feels so impotent. Like, remember DeSantis did his big campaign launch. Yeah. On a Twitter Space interview with Elon that also fizzled and couldn't work technically.
Right. And didn't Trump like shit on that when he did it? Like Trump like publicly shit on the massive clusterfuck failure that was DeSantis's Twitter-based campaign launch or whatever. Yeah. It's so funny how ever since he first came onto the scene in a big way politically, it's been an almost universal truth that you can find a self-critical past tweet or truth from him. Like anything he does dumb, you can find an old version of him shitting on that very thing. Like it's funny how consistent it is.
Absolutely.
All right. Our honorable mention for Daily Dumbass tonight is everyone but Judge Janine, who understands that someone had to get those kids to school on that Zamboni. She's talking about Tim Walz here.
Finally, this is what I love about this guy. This guy is a great drunk driver. And I'll tell you what. As a drunk driver,
So she goes on to talk about how I guess I haven't seen this reported elsewhere, but she's saying that like when Tim Walz was hauled into court for drunk driving, and this is in like 1996, I think, that his excuse for why he was going 96 and a 55 was that he thought the cop was someone chasing him, so he was running from the cop. So that's what she's saying. But anyway, the truth of the matter is, it was a pretty hit and DUI stop. I guess he told the cop he was deaf to try to avoid getting arrested.
Right.
Which is some really hit and red ass shit. Makes me laugh.
Yeah, I don't get like because he couldn't hear the sirens or whatever, but you could still see the lights presumably. If you're I mean, I guess he was hammered. Who knows? But
it was 30 something. He was in his.
I know
20s,
that. I mean, it's like if this is pretty much all that, and I know it's not. I know they're grasping at a few other straws, like with his military record and stuff, which we'll get into. But like that, it just proves that they don't have much to work with, in my opinion. Because I mean, a DUI. I'm not defending DUIs at all. He's from the middle of nowhere, and this was in the mid '90s. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, I was in the middle of nowhere in mid '90s, and pretty much everyone who drove was driving drunk for most of the time. Again, not saying you ought to do it. I'm just saying I'm not going to crucify a guy over having done that 30-something years ago. I'm glad everybody's okay and all that, but yeah, it's not.
It's also
not much of a scandal.
Culture. I'm old enough to remember that. Like, I mean, my dad was a long haul trucker, and he had stories about him being pulled over by a state trooper in Texas, and the trooper had a beer between his legs.
Right.
Like, it's just like stuff's rap. It's changed for the better, but like cultural expectations around drinking and driving are way different than they used to be. It used to be even when I lived in Texas, it was legal to drink and drive at the same time as long as you weren't impaired.
Right.
That's no longer the case. So they're pretty much So they're grasping a lot of straws. Like, here's an example. Roger Stone went on his podcast and said that he thinks Tim Walz is gay because of how he dances or whatever. And JD is dancing up to that, talking about how Tim Walz is weird because when he gave his first big rollout, event with Kamala, that he shook his wife's hand and pulled her in for a hug as opposed to mugging down with her like JD did his wife, which is I guess the normal thing to do in public. It's very weird. This tampon Tim thing's interesting because of how stupid and hollow it is. They basically there are images of his face and a box of tampons floating around the fever swamps of right-wing internet. Right,
because he had it to where tampons were put in public schools in Minnesota, right? Which is like, just that is like, okay, good. What could possibly be wrong with that? But their angle on it is, oh, he didn't just do that. He forced them to also be put into boys' bathrooms too.
Is what not true.
It's what they say happened. Yeah, right.
So basically, the purpose of this law is to get absences down, and it's pretty effective. Other states have tried it. New York does it. It's his law is basically a Xerox copy of a law that's a similar law that went into effect in Utah, the super woke nation, nation state of Utah. So basically, when they were passing this law, Republicans tried to put a poison pill troll amendment in there to forbid it from going in boys' restrooms, and they just struck that down because they recognized it as a bunch of bullshit. And then so now when you get to the funhouse mirror of Trump era politics, because you didn't go out of your way to forbid it going into boys' restrooms, it somehow becomes some big culture war thing about trans people, which is just utter horse shit. And it's up to the school districts how to implement it. Old school Republicans would understand this because the schools have local control. You're just giving them the resources to put tampons in bathrooms, and you can do with it how you want, right? And it's only going to come up if a district has one trans boy. It's like we don't need to raise government resources worried about this. Whatever. It's also fucking stupid. It does not require tampons in boys' restrooms if anybody cares about that. So they're also trying to swift boat him because his unit did end up deploying to Iraq 4 months. They got the notice a couple months after he officially separated, but you get previous notices leading up to you might have to go. But also, he had to put in his notice of separation a full year before retirement.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's my understanding of it. So yes, they said, JD Vance said, when I got called on my country to go to Iraq, I did. I served with whatever the hell he said, and he went over there and interviewed people and did the newsletter or whatever. But hey, still, he did do it. He went over there. That's all true. But he said, meanwhile, when Tim Walz got called to go to Iraq, he bounced. He just left. But like you said, he was in for almost 25 years at that point, right? And he put in his, I don't know how any of it works, but started the process of retiring from the military before they were even, given their deployment orders or whatever. He'd been in for 25 years. He said, hey, I'm retiring. In between that and him actually walking away, they get told this unit's going to get sent to Iraq, but he was already on his way out and then just finished retiring, and that
Yeah.
is that accurate? That's what actually happened, right?
Yeah, it's also like the idea that we would have won Iraq if we'd sent this 40-some-year-old chubby master sergeant or something. Is really funny because like it's also stupid. It's also insulting to who after I don't know what that's doing up there, Matt. It's also insulting to whoever replaced him because it's like, well, that guy must have been incompetent if we had to send Tim Walz to win the war. It's worth noting that Trump's campaign manager is a guy named Chris Levita, who also ran the Swift Boat campaign against John Kerry, so that's worth a fun data point here. But yeah, the idea that like the army lets you just give 2 weeks notice to avoid a war is deeply fucking funny to me. Mm-hmm. They famously were not letting guys leave if they didn't want to leave. It was called stop-loss orders. I think everybody remembers that. If you wonder like if there might actually be any meat here, I don't think there's any enough to hang anything real on, but like he was quoted as saying, "I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom," which is literally true. He was in Italy, and like, my understanding is, if you're a troop, you understand what that means. That like you're basically saying, "I served in the rear echelon." You would not say, "I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom" if you were actually serving in theater, right?
Okay.
He also, you'll see there are out of context clips of him saying when I was in Afghanistan, but he was talking about a trip he took in a congressional delegation.
Right.
But yeah, using JD to mount these attacks is pretty hilarious. Because JD did what was asked of him, but he was a public affairs officer. He was essentially like a blogger in the Marines. So him trying to mount, it's what he was asked to do, right? But also the idea that you had to choose, like Tim Walz didn't decide when his unit was going to Iraq or not go. It's like it's also so fucking stupid.
Yeah, them using clips of him talking about when I was in Afghanistan, when he never served in Afghanistan, but he did go there as a congressional delegation, like you said. That whole thing is like anytime he ever brings up the idea of running for office or whatever, not that I ever would anyway, but that is the main reason. Well, one of the main reasons why, because like they can just so easily just take any kind of clip out of context. You know what I mean? And like, dude, you could put together an 18+ minute reel of me just saying the most horrifically upsetting and hypocritical things from all the years, all of which I would argue are out of context. But if context isn't a factor, which clearly it isn't, then you can make anybody appear to have said almost anything, you know. But
the closest thing I could find to something that could be maybe bullshitty is he was talking about gun control at one point and said something, I'm paraphrasing here, but like, so he's talking about ARs and said it's like a weapon I carried in a war. And he probably should have said something like a weapon I was trained to carry in a war. But that's the closest thing to anything being there. It's probably maybe a slip of the tongue. Or maybe if you're one of those people who decides you hate him, it's a huge lie, stealing valor. It's the world we live in here where everyone has to divide up lines and pick sides about who served more badass in a war pretty much all of us agree was stupid and fucking pointless at this point. But hey, it's the country we live in.
Speaking of stupid and pointless, campaigning for president, am I right? If you're Donald Trump, it seems so. Yeah. Got a novel approach going over there in Trump country.
Yeah, apparently not doing anything. Like they actually did open some field offices this week and buy some ads, but they're buying ads in North Carolina, which shows you the state of the race if they're trying to hold on to Carolina at this point. But like, there's a theory going around that he's not campaigning very much because he's afraid, like they almost dying scared him. Yeah. And like he's afraid he'll get shot if he goes out in public again, which I kind of understand that, but I honestly forgot he was shot until I saw this news story this week about some guy, Trump supporter, built a statue out of nails of him raising his fist after he got shot. Even throw this picture back up there, Matt. This guy made a picture of him out of nails and thousands and thousands of nails, him raising the fist. And look at the golden hair nails, Trey. He says, quote, I did a lot of research on the hair. I'm quoting,
a lot of research on the hair. Yeah. He's like, and now look, it's a hell of a lot better than I could do with a whole bunch of nails. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. It's not exactly Bernini, but yeah. I did a lot of research on the hair just to get it just right. I use a different color for those.
And when he does campaign, like he just had his last campaign event was in Montana, which seemed to be weird. He's there, John Tester's in a close campaign for the Senate, so they're trying to take that Senate seat from Democrats. I get that, but also there's a bunch of money from the villains in Yellowstone all live out there. So they gotta collect money from those dickbags. But every time he leaves the house, he gets another scandal. For example, his plane broke down in Montana, so he had to get another one, and he accidentally got on a plane that used to belong to Jeffrey Epstein. So,
Yeah, you'll
just like
have
imagine,
that.
imagine if Kamala used Jeffrey Epstein's old plane as a backup.
Dude,
You know,
absolutely insane. Yeah, but they claim it was just, an honest mistake or whatever. Maybe it was. Maybe he was just trying to muddle up the DNA evidence on that plane. You know what I mean? Like he knew that his was already on it, but now he's got an excuse for having it on there. I'm just asking questions. That's all I'm doing. But
yeah.
yeah,
This wasn't the
no,
Lolita
I know
Express, by the way.
it's
It
a
was a
different
different
one.
plane.
Yeah,
So like an Air Force One and Air Force Two, I guess Epstein had
pedophilia.
Lolita Express One and
Yeah.
Lolita Express Two. So,
Well, I mean, let me ask you about like, because I've heard some people saying like, presumably these big rallies and stuff, they have to be, I imagine, booked and planned well in advance, right? I mean, they'd have to be because of the size of them, or like, I'm just wondering if like, do you think it's indicative of him thinking he could like coast during this time if there was enough lead time to plan things out, or do you think it's him being afraid or him being old? He don't have the energy to do it anymore. I mean, there has to be some reason he's just not doing shit, right? Like,
I think he's dispirited. Like they
Yeah.
thought they were going to be able to run against Biden, and
Right.
then they don't. And like we're going to talk about what's going on like, among his supporters because they're tearing each other's hair out and going each other's throats over shit that's going on. I mean, the vibes are not good over there. And here's Trump pretty much summing it up right now. Here's a clip from him at that. I think it's at that rally in Montana.
We're going to get Joe Biden out of the White House. What's he doing now? Greg, what's he doing?
Passing laws.
You know, he wanted to debate. If we didn't have a debate, he'd still be there. Can you imagine if we didn't have a debate? Why the hell did I debate him?
You cut him out.
Yeah, a moment of honesty there, peeking
How-
through.
Politics is supposed to be a zero-sum game, but two guys somehow lost one debate. It's very fucking funny to
It
me.
is wild. Yeah, no, he's clearly pretty upset over Biden not being there anymore. I mean, he went on that one rant on Truth Social trying to like manifest a reality where he's still running against Biden, kind of. Like he went on this
Yeah.
thing, like he like posited his own conspiracy theory that Biden was just going to take back his candidacy or whatever, and then he would get to debate him again because that would, how super awesome that was, and now he'd get to, kick his ass again or whatever, and all this crazy stuff. But yeah, it does not seem to be coping well with this new reality.
I mean, Kamala's already been certified as the nominee, so I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. But so, like, I always wonder if he's this stupid or not. I mean, I kind of think, yeah, but it's very fucking weird. We're going to talk about, like, all the ways the Republican Party's and the Heritage Foundation types are gearing up to cheat. And this is not, I want to be clear here, everybody fucking vote. Right? Anybody telling the the results won't matter because Trump will just steal it is trying to suppress your vote, all right? They're trying
I mean, I feel like my immediate reaction to that line of thinking is just like, that makes it even more important that everyone votes because
Yes.
it's like the further the margin is, the harder it will be for them to do the nefarious shit they're wanting to do. So even if you do believe, they're just going to try to steal it anyway, you should be way more motivated to vote and to turn out the vote and everything because that feels like the best possible. Because we all know it's going to be some fuckery no matter what. But if it's like razor thin or whatever, again, I mean, Jesus Christ, versus a much more resounding victory, that I think that would make a big difference.
Everybody do what you can to run up the score because it'll give actual chances for progressive policy. It'll like create mandates. It does all sorts of different things down ballot. But also, it makes it more difficult to steal. There's no reason to take Georgia's voting process to court if the electoral count's already in the bag. You know what I'm saying? So run up the score because what's likely to happen in November if it's remotely close, and just for context's sake, like I think national polling has Kamala up between 3 and 4 points right now nationwide, and up in the blue wall states, which is enough for the electoral college. But at this point in 2020, Biden was up like 8 or 9 points. He ended up winning by 4.5. Okay, so things change, things happen, and like it could be closer, much closer than it looks like now. Okay, or flipped. And what's possibly going to happen in November is a long post-election dogfight, and that's even if things go orderly here, right? Because, for example, like when it comes to like the House, there's a decent chance that after election night, even the next few days, neither party will have a majority and be waiting for like slow ballot counting processes and a bunch of races in Arizona, California, Alaska, the Maine 2nd District, Washington State, and So we're about to pivot to talk about the Trump campaign for a second here in a minute. It's like I hope this is the last chapter of Trump as national protagonist.
Right.
But right now, what he's telling himself and his supporters, unfortunately, fucking matters. And the delusions he's having right now are ultimately a permission structure to attempt a second coup. And
Right.
like,
Yes. The whole like setting it up to where they, in their minds, there's no possible way that he could lose. So if it if it becomes apparent that he is losing, then there's no other explanation for that other than chicanery, skullduggery, underhanded tactics, because they live in their own bubble. They believe what they want to believe, and I've seen conservatives on Twitter sometimes like reply to some progressive saying something, and they'll say something like, you do realize 95% of people disagree with you, right? Or 95% of people think you're inside. Like they think shit like that. Like they, in their minds, they truly believe that, they represent the will of the people of America. And there's no way that Kamala could win without, cheating in some capacity. And he's feeding directly into that, like very much on purpose. Like that's part of the whole plan.
Yeah. He thinks that the change in polling is proof that Democrats are cheating, like they're rigging the polls to create like a narrative that he was always down and was always going to lose, right? So that's what he's telling. That's what he's telling people in private. In public, what he's telling people is that the photos of crowds at Kamala rallies are artificially intelligence generated. Like the one that went viral in the past few days was all over through social. It is a picture of. You pull this picture of the plane up, Matt. A circle's drawn on their plane. Now, so basically it's saying that the crowds are fake because there's no reflection of them in the plane. In reality, what happened is planes are curved.
Right.
And also it's taken from a telephoto lens. It makes the crowd look closer to the plane than it is in reality.
Right. Yes.
So
I mean, I'm saying that like I didn't know, but that was just my assumption. It's like I'm sure it's just a different, light and angles and all that stuff can do some wild shit with cameras anyway, so it doesn't automatically mean anything. But I know that her rallies and stuff from the same venues, and they're packed and everything. And I've seen people try to like prove that it's like, whatever, procedurally generated crowd members up in the top, and really hardly anybody was there and all this shit. And it's just, I just don't know. None of that is true. That isn't what happened. Those people did show up. They were there. This is real. This is evidence of what is real. And they just are like, oh, this is clearly all bullshit. This is clearly fake. And it, what the hell, what do you do to that? Or with
and
that?
it like we've made fun of that. Like I don't really think crowd size is super indicative of anything other than the enthusiasm of the people that showed up.
Right.
And and like we'd be lying to say that like the 20,000 people show up to Trump rallies aren't enthusiastic about Trump, but it's just like we just made fun of the idea that they're super indicative of anything. The way this matters is the Harris campaign is converting these people into volunteers. That's the part that matters. But I used to think like the danger of AI was idiots believing that fake shit was real, but apparently the part of the danger is also that people believe that real shit is fake. They refuse to believe what their eyes are telling them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, when you think about the Trump, them starting the whole, like, I'm not saying they started it, but they definitely popularized the whole fake news thing in 2016. Like, we've all known that was dangerous the whole time, but that coupled with this AI shit that started in the last couple of years is like a real problem. Again, reality just doesn't matter anymore to so many people, and I don't know how you get that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah. And it's like this stuff seems silly, but it's fairly obvious in service of the stuff we're talking about. Like, I mean, Bernie Sanders put out this statement today talking about how no one is actually showing up how Trump is saying that no one's showing up to Harris rallies. Quote, what Trump is doing is laying the groundwork for rejecting the election results if he loses. If you can convince your supporters that thousands of people who attended a televised rally do not exist, it will not be hard to convince them that the election returns in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and elsewhere are fake and fraudulent.
Right.
So this stuff is extremely petty, and there's people all over Fox News talking to each other, but essentially talking to Trump to cut this out because it seems stupid to regular people. It makes you seem conspiratorial and dumb, all of which is true. And this AI idiocy had Trump supporters fighting each other online. There's also a thing because Joe Rogan kind of sort of endorsed RFK, and then Trump truthed on his social media platform that UFC fans, next time there's an event, should boo Joe Rogan when he shows up, which is extremely stupid because UFC fans don't like Rogan because they like Trump. they're cool with Trump because Rogan likes Trump.
Right.
It's like you've got who the influencer is fucking backwards. All right. And so people were like, oh, Trump needs to fire his campaign staff, as if Trump's campaign staff was stupid enough to truth that. The man did that himself, motherfuckers. I don't know what to tell you. And it caused this big stupid fight among Trump supporters. And as far as this, like, I was just thinking, man, imagine your papa's digging a foxhole in the ice cold ground in Bastogne 80 years ago. And he just saw his 3 best buddies get killed the day before. At the bottom of the foxhole, he finds a wormhole where he can communicate to you. And he says, Trey, was it all worth it? What's the state of American democracy? And you read back this quote from a Daily Beast reporter. That led Fuentes followers to accuse Cat Turd of being a subversive force. And naturally now Cat Turd supporters are calling for Groypers to be banned from Trump's aides that oversee Truth Social. What the fuck? I swear to God, like, making these people not matter should be mission number 1 for American democracy right now.
Absolutely.
The fact that Cat Turd is a serious thinker in American
it's a
politics.
Thought leader. Yeah,
yes.
It's insane. Cat Turd. I know. Cat Turd wields power and influence on the American right. Like, it's truly, it's not exactly Dwight D. Eisenhower, or whatever. Feels pretty different.
And while they're telling their sucker supporters that any sort of any vote against them is fraudulent, any election against them is fraudulent, because obviously they're super popular, they know they're not super popular, and their entire project is built around like seizing power. Despite that, we're not going to get deep into 2025 stuff, but ProPublica got a hold of some training videos that they're showing to potential staffies in a second Trump administration, and not to go too far in a parallel here, but the stuff that like the overall majority of people who know anything about anything understand that climate change is real.
Right.
And what they're telling themselves is they need to make it so that no government document anywhere will mention climate change. It's going to be deleted from every government document, every government program, including the State Department and the national security apparatus, because if you work for the CIA and you're writing threat assessments about what countries on the verge of collapse, which ones are going to run out of water and therefore lead to political instability as the oceans rise, is an important factor to where to make the point that climate change is a national security issue. They want to make it so if you're a smart person who works in intelligence, you can't even point that out, because to them the CIA has gone too fucking woke.
Right.
It's insane. Anyway, that's a digression. But so this recruitment video from this asshole. Listen to this guy, how this guy talks about government service and what you need to be willing to risk to work for a second Trump administration. All right.
If the next Republican president does not execute a dramatic course correction, there may never be another chance. So if you're not on board with helping implement a dramatic course correction because you're afraid it'll damage your future employment prospects, it'll harm you socially, look, I get it. That's a real danger. It's a real thing. But please, do us all a favor and sit this one out.
All right. So what he's saying there is, if you're not on board to be recorded as a villain in history, if you're not prepared to have your neighbors hate you and have nobody want to employ you after you do whatever you do when you work for us, this is not the job for you. Does that sound like a person who wants to implement a popular agenda?
Exactly right. It's the direct implication there is that the work that we are going to do here will make you a pariah in your community, right? And it's and you got to be willing to live with that, or we don't. And another way to look at this is I hope that there are enough people out there who would actually take the advice he's giving here, meaning sitting this one out in that capacity, that there's enough people out there that are not willing to go that far for those reasons. You know what I mean? That it's a bridge too far for enough people for it to matter, basically. But yeah,
let's hope so. But they're trying to do a selection bias thing where they only get the world's biggest assholes who don't care if they have friends or if they're recorded as members of the Waffen SS or some shit. Yeah. So with that in mind about how unpopular they know they are, let's talk about this new secret society that just became publicly known. It's called Ziklag. It's a new group, according to ProPublica. It's an under-the-radar Christian nationalist aligned funding network called Ziklag, which describes itself as a, quote, private, confidential, invitation-only community of high net worth families. The minimum net worth to get in is $25 million. Mm-hmm. All right. Ziklag was the name of a town in the Kingdom of Judah in the Old Testament, by the way.
Okay, so that's suitably, off-putting for sure, that it's something from the Old Testament or whatever. That also don't hit, but I feel like it definitely sounds kind of Nazi-ish, I think, right? Like Ziklag, like it's just got a kind of
Yeah,
got that
it's
kind of
up.
vibe to it. I'm not saying they did that on purpose, but I'm just saying it's something that makes it hits in their brain. They're like they just got a good sound to it. I think.
Well, it's probably Hebrew, so I don't know if I want to call it Nazi, but I know what you're saying. It does
It's a good
sound
point.
it does sound Germanic.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to it a couple weeks ago. We were talking about JD being selected, but JD's in another secret society that I didn't know about called Teneo or something. It's some Latin word that means some dumb bullshit. Can we get cool secret societies again? Can we? Because like orgies and plague masks, I'm kind of cool with, but these new
Right.
ones who just do Bible trivia and playing coups fucking suck.
Dude, I've thought that before about just like religion in general. Like I was walking, I was like playing this game, Hades. It's got the Greek gods and the Greek pantheon and stuff in it. And it's like, man, church, like a version of church used to be like going and getting fucking hammered drunk off wine and partying, having a big orgy, and maybe sacrificing a goat or whatever here and there, depending on how much fun you want to have, and then like versus, how boring and awful, church is now. But yes, I agree with you. It does apply to this too. Being what's the point being in a secret society, if you're just gonna like sit around in suits and argue over the Bible and talk about how you're gonna ruin democracy for everybody. I guess the power is the part of it that that just hits.
And I guess the world's always. I was texting you guys about this, but I was learned about Charlie Wilson in the '80s. About he was the. You've seen Charlie Wilson's War. Tom Hanks plays him, and it's pretty funny because they're talking about funding what turned out to be Al Qaeda. Just like nice lighthearted romp about funding Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
So
it is a great movie though.
Yeah,
I just rewatched that movie for the first time in a long time, like a couple months ago. And it's just so y'all not hot take. I know we all know this already. Philip Seymour Hoffman was truly something else. He's off the charts in that movie, dude. It's so goddamn good. Anyway.
And the real guy he played was funny as shit too. We don't have time to get into that, but he's worth learning about. So Charlie Wilson apparently convinced the Pakistanis and Saudi intelligence to work together to arm the Mujahideen at a Greek-themed toga party that was so authentic they actually auctioned off Greek slave girls. All right. So I think this is just how things work.
Right.
They were actors playing. They didn't have real slaves. This was in Texas. So okay. So as far as what Ziklag's up to, and who it is, like they're the families who own Hobby Lobby, heirs to the Wheeline shipping fortune, and the founders of Jockey Apparel. So like I don't shop at Hobby Lobby or have a trucking concern, but I do wear underwear. So I guess
I didn't know that about Jockey. That was my first. So we all know the word's out on Hobby Lobby at this point and has been for a minute. But I didn't know that Jockey was on the crazy train too. That's not that I'm not brand loyal to Jockey, but I've definitely had some Jockey shit in my time. So
yeah, we're official. What's some other Hanes? We're Hanes people here at Skews now. So basically, what they're funneling their money into is millions of dollars into like efforts to promote election conspiracy theories and undermine their freedom to vote, and they call this funding Operation Checkmate. Part of this is plans to give $800,000 to a company called Eagle AI, which is a controversial mass voter challenge software program utilized by activists in states like Georgia and Florida. Basically, what these programs do is this AI rounds up a bunch of different data points to try to prove that you aren't who you are or don't live at the address you say you do, to try to like object to your being on a voter roll, to being a registered voter. All right, now.
Is there a good reason for why people can even do that at all? You know what I mean? Meaning like you can like now you can go on the website, depending on what state you live in, you can go on their website and you can like challenge someone else's voter registration because, I know that they don't actually live there. So that means that this should be invalid and now they can't vote. Like, is there an actual like benevolent case for that even being a functionality that people should have available to them that I'm just missing? Or like,
I can't think of one, but also like
Right.
I don't object to like if there weren't a bunch of bad faith actors out there, like if you should be able to, if you think somebody committed a crime, like i.e. voted illegally, seriously illegally, I don't mean like you were tricked into thinking you'd already finished your parole and hadn't or whatever, or you just forgot to like change your address when you live in the same district or something. I mean like you committed an actual crime. Like I understand being able to snitch. I don't snitch on people, but I get like, but that's after they voted.
mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's after they committed a crime. You can't pre-snitch on someone for committing a crime.
Right.
But the thing about this AI stuff is AI doesn't work So, but we found the ultimate use case for AI, and it's being useless on purpose. This AI is no doubt, to me, going to get a bunch of people not be able to vote, even though they should be able to vote because the computer's confused. I saw a screen grab earlier. Somebody asked ChatGPT which number was bigger, 9.11 or 9.9, and it answered 9.11 because 11 is more than 9.
Yep.
Computers were invented to do math, and we've
Right.
trained it to not do math.
Yeah.
All right? That's how fucking stupid shit is getting. And this effort, by the way, is backed by Cleta Mitchell, who she was famously one of Trump's lawyers who was on the phone call where he asked Georgia's Secretary of State to find him an extra 10,000 votes. All right? So she's already dirty as shit. She formed a group called Citizen AG that has plans to file lawsuits against counties that reject Eagle Eye AI-generated complaints. So you can't even not listen to the computer, or you'll get sued. All right? This is happening in Georgia, like I said. Georgia's going to come up a couple times here. We need to win enough states that Georgia doesn't matter, basically. So basically, you brought up the snitching on people for not being registered. Georgia debuted a portal where the Secretary of State's office let people cancel the registration of another voter if they've allegedly died or moved out of state. All you need to know to cancel someone else's voter registration is their name, their date of birth, and their county of residence to initiate a cancellation request. And then to finish it, you do need to have the last 4 digits of their social or their driver's license number. The problem is, the process they used to establish the portal accidentally leaked all that information. It was immediately hacked and breached. So, if you wanted to, if you had the time and inclination, you could cancel the voter registration for every single person in fucking Georgia. All right?
Right. Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, why it allows you to do that. You know, you can have someone else's registration canceled if they have died or moved out of state. But it's like, why does any regular person need to be able to do that for somebody? You know what I mean? Like, why? Because your neighbor died, and it's like, oh, I better make sure his voter registration's canceled. You know, I mean, why? Like, I just don't see outside of this bullshittery. I don't understand why it even needs to be a thing.
If you're one of these paranoid psychos that thinks that somebody's going to vote on a dead person's behalf, I guess, but like
Right.
nobody really does. A very, 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 very a numerically inconsequential number of people do that. So they're basically, because of the stupid way we do voting in America, there's basically 5 different hinge points to suppress people's vote. You can stop them from registering, which people try to do all the time. You can kick them off voter rolls, which we were just talking about. You can stop them from voting by telling them their vote won't matter, or trying to keep them busy that day, or making sure the polling locations have long lines, making sure you can't drink water in lines, or whatever the stuff they've been doing in Georgia. You can try to stop votes from being counted, but ultimately what you can do is stop certification, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about next. And I need everyone to remember here that January 6th was the culmination of a certification dispute that started at county levels and trickled upwards. All right.
Yes, this is the type of thing, and I guess I don't know. I'm not saying it's literally never happened, but this is the type of thing that before January 6th, it's like I feel like most people didn't even think about that part of it. You know what I mean? Of an election,
Right.
That like
It's pro forma.
right? Yeah. You just take that for granted, and then realizing it's like no, actually, this is like a thing that has to happen. They don't necessarily have to just do it if they want, if they're bad actors or whatever, and then it's.
Well, what saved us in 2020 is a lot of the states did have laws mandating that they do it. That's eventually what saved everyone. Is like it said the law says it's a ceremonial role. It says shall certify. It doesn't say can certify or has the chance to certify. It says you fucking have to do it. So that's like a basic courts made them do it in a lot of places. But what's happened since then is they've been trying to take control of election machinery and change the rules. So, like, basically, it's in swing states like Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. At least 70 pro-Trump election conspiracists are currently working as county election officials who have questioned the validity of elections or delayed or refused to certify results. Of those 70, 22 of them have already refused or delayed certification of recent past elections. There's a woman in Georgia who refused to certify Trump's primary victory over Nikki Haley, because she waited for more information. And we're going to get back to her in a second, but that's the kind of shit we're talking about. They're trying to establish the precedent that they resist certifying every fucking election. All right? In Michigan, most election officials who certified in 2020 are gone. There's a guy whose last name's Froman, who's now on the Kalamazoo County Canvassing Board, who says he was explicitly elected not to certify any election that was conducted like 2020. I have no idea what that means for this year.
Right.
We're going to have to fucking find out together, all right? So circling back to Georgia for a second, the primary was in May, and the lady I was just talking about, her name is Julie Adams, and she's a member of the Fulton County Board of Elections. And like I said, she refused to certify Trump's primary victory. Then she filed a lawsuit against the board she sits on, arguing that as a local election official, she can refuse to certify the results until the county provides her with mountains of election data to investigate the election that just took place. This has never happened before. Again, she's a lady who sits on a county election board. She's not supposed to fucking matter. She argued that she should have flexibility in certifying the election, and the court agreed, and they changed the rules. The 3 Republicans on Georgia State Election Board backed her up. What they say now is like she can conduct a reasonable inquiry into election results, and they don't define what any limits are on what a reasonable inquiry is. All right, that's the ballgame. All right, so
right, and there's no like probable cause for reasonable inquiry either, right? Like she could just not like the result of it or whatever, and not want to certify it, and say, well, I have the right to launch a reasonable inquiry, which is ill-defined and has no limit to it. Right. And then it's just caught in limbo for however long she wants to keep it that way.
Yeah, and we're all gonna be watching CNN on November 19th at a court hearing where people are arguing about what reasonable means. Well, this lady tries to drag out the certification past the deadline of November 22nd, because then they'll be like, well, we can never figure out what happened with these election results, so I guess we got to throw it to the state legislature, who will just give the electoral votes to Trump, right? And so Trump had a rally in Georgia a couple weeks ago, where the headlines out of it where he kind of roasted Governor Brian Kemp and his wife for being ungrateful to him after he got him elected, because he endorsed him, and Brian Kemp didn't go to bat for him, try to overturn the election results. But a moment no one noticed, he singled out 3 little-known Republican officials, Janice Johnston, Rick Jaffaris, and Janelle King, calling them pit bulls fighting for honesty, transparency, and victory. If you're wondering who Johnston, Jaffaris, and King are, they're the 3 members of the Georgia State Election Board who agreed with that lady's lawsuit that she should be able to hold up election certification until she is satisfied with her reasonable inquiry. So they all know what's going on here, even if no one else can follow it, all right? It's a small club. We're not in it. They got a secret handshake. They hang out at the Ziklag headquarters, making plans for the rest of our country. And, like, the rest of us are going to just have to, like, I don't know, figure out what to do about it. But I guess as the run-up to Election Day, everybody check your voter registration on vote.org. Everybody vote. Get everyone you know to vote. Run up the score so stealing feels pointless and hopeless to these dumb fucks. So hopefully we can get past the Voting Rights Act and fixed all this shit before 2028, when Trump's inevitably going to be running again and they're all going to be doing this shit again. And be ready to support protesters when they're out in force in the streets trying to, like, make an election matter come late November.
Yeah. So let me ask you this part. Last time in 2020, all the bullshit they got up to, Trump was the sitting president, right? When all that happened. And I know it's like it came down to a handful of people who actually ended up having some integrity at the end of the day, one of which was Mike Pence. And part of Project 2025's whole thing is making sure that does not happen again. However, right now, Joe Biden is the president, right? And will be the president when this election happens. Like, the context of that is a little bit different. Like, how much will that matter? You know what I mean? The fact that the Democrats have power right now, Trump's not being ousted. He's trying to take it back. Like, will any of that make a difference?
Well, when it comes to running American elections, there's not one national election. There's 50 state elections. Right. So probably the Georgia State Election Board has more power than does the President of the United States. Now, having the Department of Justice on your side, filing lawsuits against the Georgia State Election Board could matter, but then you're talking about trying to get it to the Supreme Court, and then who knows how that goes.
Right, yeah, you definitely don't want to go to the Supreme Court, right.
So, I'm not saying like again, this could all like pass like a fart in the wind, you know? If Kamala wins the blue firewall states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, plus the main second. If Kamala wins with 271 because she wins like Maine second, because they did a thing in Maine and also Nebraska where they carve out a congressional district for one electoral vote. That's going to be fucking hilarious, and none of this might end up mattering. It might, like, the momentum might keep going. She might end up winning by like 7 points and 100
Well, that's the
electoral
other
votes,
thing
none
too.
of this matters, but
like
Yeah.
Georgia, I get because Georgia was a blue state last election, just barely, and it caused a lot of consternation and all that, and a lot of backlash there in the peach state or whatever. Is that what they are? The peach? I know they love peaches. Anyway, but a lot of these other states, even like in the blue wall and all that, I mean, it can't just be lunatics all the way down, right? Like some of them, even some of the important ones, presumably, it's not exclusively operated by these, ideologues, right? There's some of them have like good people who have integrity
Right.
working in these same jobs, right?
Right.
Like,
The problem is because the Republican party's at the institutional level is full of fucking lunatics right now. So like these three people I talked about on the Georgia State Election Board are political appointees. So the question becomes like, what does Georgia's Secretary of State do? What does the governor do? Are they afraid of Trump urging his Bob to kill them? You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just people of integrity; it's people that don't want to die.
yeah,
So like,
yeah.
yeah.
And then you also hear aside from it's not like it. There's also everyone who's on the complete other end of the political spectrum. Everybody's on the left in any capacity. But you also hear all the time about how there's a lot of, Republicans too, still somewhere out there who really, they're not down with Trump and that type of thing. I know he's like taken over the party and has it held hostage, but that they are still some who do exist who also wish he would go away because they don't like all the bullshit that's happened as a result.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not defending those people because still you're at this point, you're complicit or worse in the whole thing, regardless of how you feel about it, unless you like put your money where your mouth is and basically walked away. But
as annoyed as I am with conservatism as an ideology, and I do have a lot of friends who are like old school conservatives who, people I grew up in a small town and they go to church, they think abortion's wrong and like think taxes should be low. And like, I wish we could get back to like just debating taxes and healthcare policy.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so like, I kind of feel like the hope is that there are enough Republicans who aren't down with a bunch of this insane bullshit, looking up to Cat Turner as a fucking thought leader,
right,
who just want to get past this and get back to arguing about taxes because they recognize that even if they disagree with Kamala about like whether or not rich people should pay 39% versus 36%, that getting past this is more important than that for the time being.
right,
Because it's just not that big of a thing in the grand scheme of things, versus not whether or not America collapses into semi-authoritarianism so Vladimir Putin can have free reign to like. We didn't talk about the up top, but like Trump making the point of like talking about how he could have prevented the war against Ukraine right now at this moment where Ukrainian troops are running amok in Western Russia. It's fucking hilarious at this point. And
did you see where Putin made that statement or whatever? It was like condemning the West for their silence on the Ukrainian
aggression?
Ukrainian aggression. Yeah. He was like, do they care nothing for the dead innocents in the streets? Do they care? Like this whole elaborate thing about how
I do.
Yeah.
I do care about them. I wish the war wasn't happening because they're
Right.
just Russian civilians whose towns are getting invaded right now.
Right.
Well, they're being ordered to evacuate because there are no Russian troops to defend Russia because they're all in fucking Ukraine.
Yes. Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want any innocents to get killed, but I'm just saying it's a hell of a thing for Vladimir Putin to say, which is wild.
He's too busy framing women's boxers for failed chromosomal tests. So yeah, that's what he's on about.
Yeah. By the way, final update on that. Iman Khalif, however you say her name.
I think it's Halif, but yeah, I think K is silent. But yeah.
Won the gold medal. Ultimately, ended up winning the gold.
Not only won the gold, but ensured that America won the gold medal count over China by beating a Chinese lady in the final. So she deprived our glorious Chinese communist overlords of a propaganda victory in favor of grand old USA, baby. Hell yeah!
And now she's like suing like J.K. Rowling and Elon Musk and some of those people for like defamation or slander or whatever the appropriate term is in this case. But yeah, it's
I think she's suing in France, so it's
Yeah.
it's like a hate speech thing, which it wouldn't fly in America because hate speech is legal here. So yeah.
Anyway, so that all worked out pretty cool. Loved the Olympics personally. I thought they were pretty kick-ass this time around, and I'm looking forward to us hosting them here in LA in 4 years.
I'm not looking forward to that, but the Olympics were these Olympics were fun. But like the vibe shift about whether or not the stuff these people care about. They spent 2 weeks rooting against America, rooting for America to fail, hating everything that was happening there,
Right.
insulting American athletes, complaining about the opening ceremonies. Ratings were up like 3 or 4-fold. Everybody had a great time. No one cares about their dumb bullshit.
Yep.
And I hope this fall's election results, which they want to make about stuff like whether or not the Olympic opening ceremony is too fucking woke, I hope it doesn't matter and everyone can go back to being sane and we can talk about, like, I don't know, state legislatures being weird on this show.
Yep. From your lips to the fake Lord's ears, brother. All right. Thank you all for watching. Remind you again, real quick, go to TreyCrowder.com. Check out my upcoming tour dates. Got a Midwest run coming up, and then I'm back in Texas after that in San Antone. Also on TreyCrowder.com, me and Corey's book, Round Here and Over Yonder. It's a funny travel book. It's a good time. Check it out. And lastly, if you want some more of this show in your life, 2 full episodes a month to be exact, you can sign up on Patreon for $5 a month, and that's what you get. Go to weeklyskews.com/more, or just go on Patreon and search for my name. Either way works. Most importantly, you keep watching these here iterations every Skews day, and we'll keep deploying them to you. We'll see you next time. Love you. Bye.